Welcome to this new driver's eye view video. In this program, we shall be taking a look at both the Cardiff Bay line and then continue from Cardiff Central on the South Wales Main Line to Swansea. First, we will look at the three stations of Cardiff Bay, Cardiff Queen Street, before arriving into Cardiff Central, which will take a total journey time of around 10 minutes. Opening 4 years after the line as Cardiff Boot Dock in 1844 with 2 platforms, and is the terminus for passenger services from Queen Street Station. The line, however, continued through the station and onto the Boot Docks, for mostly coal traffic being delivered from both the Taff Vale and Rhymney railway lines until the 1960s, when the docks were closed to freight traffic, along with one of the station's platforms. The station was renamed several times, first to Cardiff Docks only 1 year after opening, then to Cardiff Boot Road in 1924, and then to its current name, Cardiff Bay, in 1994. Today, Cardiff Bay sees one train every 12 minutes from Cardiff Queen Street, and is operated by Transport for Wales. Our train for this journey consists of 2 Class 153 Super Sprinters in the former Arriva Trains Wales livery. Transport for Wales manages 22 of these units, with a further 8 units to arrive from West Midlands Railway. In 2018, Transport for Wales announced that they will be extending this line to Boot Plaza, with a new terminus station called The Flourish, along with a new intermediate station called Loudon Square, which will be located just here. This project will allow the line to be reintegrated into the Valley Line services, along with the introduction of the new tram trains from the Stadler CityLink company, which will replace the Class 153s. The station at Cardiff Bay is set to close in 2023, and at the same time, the 2 new stations of The Flourish and Loudon Square will be opened. The line climbs to East Branch Junction at 1 in 100. At the junction, we cross the South Wales Main Line and come across a Transport for Wales service, which consists of a Class 150 Type 2 Sprinter and a Class 142 Pacer. We are now on the Taff Vale line, which is still used for passenger services to the terminus at Merthyr Tydfil. At the Bay Platform 1 is another Class 153 awaiting to work the shuttle service to Cardiff Bay, whilst at Platform 2 is a service to Barry Island, formed of a Class 143 Pacer and another Class 150 Type 2 Sprinter. Opened with the Taff Vale line in 1840 as Cardiff Taff Vale. In 1887 it was demolished and replaced by a much larger station with the current name, Cardiff Queen Street. It was enlarged in 1928 and was rebuilt in 1973. In 2014, the station was redeveloped once more. It gave the station a total of 4 through platforms and a bay platform for the shuttle services to Cardiff Bay, as well as a new station building and signalling system. Today, Queen Street is the second most busiest station in Wales, with Cardiff Central being the most busiest. The station receives 12 northbound trains and 16 southbound trains every hour. All services are operated by Transport for Wales. Our train, the Class 153s, were originally built as Class 155 Super Sprinters by Leyland Bus at Workington between 1987 and 1988, with a total of 42 sets being built. In 1990, it became clear that the aging DMUs from the 1950s needed to be replaced on the rural and branch line services. British Rail decided to convert 35 of the Class 155s into 70 single-car Class 153 Super Sprinters between 1991 and 1992, leaving the remaining 7 Class 155s in their original formation. Both units have a top speed of 75 miles per hour and are powered by a Cummins engine, which generates a total of 285 horsepower for the Class 153s and 570 horsepower for the Class 155s. The remaining 7 are managed by Northern Trains, whilst the 153s are managed by East Midlands Railway, Northern Trains, Transport for Wales, along with Abellio Scott Rail, who have 5 of these units. However, these 153s have yet to enter service. As we head down to Cardiff Central on an average gradient of 1 in 50, we pass a Class 142 Pacer on a service to Corriton. The reason for this short climb up into the station is because the site was originally a floodplain, so with the help of Sir Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the station was built on a raised embankment to avoid flooding. After arriving at the most busiest station in Wales, the train to Barry Island arrives into Platform 7, whilst our train to Swansea arrives into Platform 6. We leave our Class 153 Duo as it departs for Bridgend, which is our next stop on our journey to Swansea. We will now continue our journey on the South Wales Main Line to Swansea, calling at Bridgend, Port Talbot Parkway, Neath and Swansea, a total journey time of around 60 minutes. The station opened in 1850 as Cardiff and was enlarged in 1896, only to be rebuilt between 1931 and 1934. In 1940, the station was merged with Cardiff Riverside Station until 1964, when the station closed. In 2011, the station was redeveloped along with a new platform which is numbered 8. The station was electrified in 2019. Today, Cardiff Central is served by Cross Country, Great Western Railway and Transport for Wales, with around 34 trains an hour calling or terminating at this station, making it both the largest and busiest station in Wales. At Platform 6, we join a Transport for Wales service from Manchester Piccadilly to Milford Haven, which consists of a 3-car Class 175 Caradia in the former Arriva Trains Wales livery. As we leave the station, we cross the River Taff at the station speed limit of 15 miles per hour. The lines to our left lead to Barry Island and to Bridgend via the Vale of Glamorgan, as well as the Cardiff City line to Rhadur. We passed the Class 150 Type 0 Sprinters as they formed the return service to Bristol. We travelled on these units in the first part of the South Wales Mainline Driver's Eye View video. The link is in the description below. To our left is Cardiff Canton Traction Maintenance Depot. It opened in 1882 to replace the depot at Long Dyke. The GWR enlarged the site in 1887 with a 28-row turntable that spanned 55 feet or 17 metres, only to be replaced by a larger turntable in 1931 with a diameter of 65 feet or 20 metres. The depot replaced its steam traction with diesel locomotives and multiple units in 1962. The depot today houses their entire fleet of Pacers, as well as the majority of their current fleet. They also house a handful of Cross Country's Class 170 Turbostars. The connecting branch line from the Cardiff City line converges from our left at Leckwith Junction. The line only reopened in 1987 and is just 4 miles and 66 chains long. It runs from Cardiff Queen Street to Rudder. We now pass beneath the Cardiff City line. The site of the A48 main road bridge was where the station of Ely Main Line was sited. It opened as Ely in 1852. In 1924 it was renamed to Ely Main Line and was a busy station as it was close to the Ely racecourse. The station closed to passengers in 1962, only to close to freight the following year. To our left is the River Ely, which follows the line as far as Pontyclun. This was the site of St Fagans Station. It opened in 1852 and was a fairly substantial station. It closed to freight traffic in 1959 and then to passengers in 1962. Several proposals have been made in recent years to reopen this station. The site of the A4232 trunk route was once the Barry Railway from St Bride's to Treherford. It opened in 1888 and closed in stages from 1962 to 1976. This was the site of Peterson Station. It opened in 1858 and closed to freight in 1962, before to passengers in 1964. A connecting branch line with the Barry Railway was also located at the former station. Our train, the Class 175 Coradia, were built by Alstom between 1999 and 2001 at Washwood Heath, Birmingham, and are part of the Coradia family of trains. A total of 27 units were built, and are separated into two subclasses, with the Type 0s having 11 two-car sets, and the Type 1s having 16 three-car sets, with a top speed of 100 miles per hour. Each carriage is fitted with a Cummins engine, which produces 450 horsepower each, giving a total of 900 for the Type 0s and 1,350 for the Type 1s. These units were first operated by First North Western from Birmingham, Crewe and Manchester to Llandudno, Holyhead, Barrow and Windermere, until in 2003, where all 27 units were transferred to Arriva Trains Wales, until being passed on to Transport for Wales in 2018. We passed beneath the M4 motorway for the first out of 6 times on our journey to Swansea. The M4 is the main motorway for Wales, running for 189 miles from London to Llanelli, with a total of 49 junctions. We passed the station at Pontyclun. The original station opened in 1850 as Llantrisant for Cowbridge by the South Wales Railway. It became a junction station in 1860 with the Ely Valley Railway, although passenger services didn't start until 1865. The two stations were then amalgamated in 1925 and connected the Llantrisant and Taff Vale line as well as the Ely Valley Railway. Following the decline after nationalisation in 1948, the Taff Vale railway line from Cross Inn to Pontypridd closed in 1952. The station at Llantrisant closed in 1964, with the Ely Valley Railway closing the following year to all traffic. The current station dates from 1992 and sees an hourly service operated by Transport for Wales. We passed the station at Llanelli. The original station opened in 1850 and was a junction station with the Cardiff and Ogmore Valley Railway from 1876 until 1962, only for the original station to close in 1964. The current station opened in 2007 and receives an hourly service in each direction. We pass the two offset platforms at Pencoed Station. Like with Pontyclun and Llanawan, Pencoed opened in 1850 and closed in 1964. It was reopened in 1992 as part of the Maestig Line reinstatement scheme and sees one train every hour in both directions. We pass beneath the M4 for the second time. Get the advanced warning for the 60 mph speed restriction on the approach to Bridge End. To our left was where a large freight yard was located. It is now the site of Bridge End's industrial estate. As we approach the station of Bridgend, the Vale of Glamorgan line from Barry Island converges from the left, with services terminating in the Bay Platform 1A. Opening in 1850 with the line, and is a junction station for the line to Maesteg as well as the Vale of Glamorgan. Bridgend lost its passenger services for both of these lines in 1964 and 1970. The lines, however, remained open for freight traffic, and was reopened for passengers to Maesteg in 1992 and then to Barry Island in 2006. The station today has a total of 4 platforms, with only 3 in use, with services being operated by Great Western Railway and Transport for Wales. The line to Maesteg diverges to the right. Services run every hour from Maesteg to Gloucester and Cheltenham, which is now mostly operated by the Class 170 Turbostars from Greater Anglia, which were transferred to Transport for Wales earlier this year. We cross the River Ogmore. We now start to climb at 1 in 132 to the summit at Transpile. We pass beneath the M4 for the third time. We start to fall at an average gradient of 1 in 93 all the way to Pyle Station, where the gradient eases out to 1 in 110. This was the site of the former Pyle Triangular Junction to the seaside town of Porthcawl, which was part of the Llanvi and Ogmore Railway. It was converted to heavy rail in 1861, as it was originally a tramway. The branch line, along with the passenger and freight terminus at Porthcawl and Knotted Holt Station, would close in the 1960s during the reshaping of British Railways. We now approach the station at Pyle, originally opening with the line in 1850 and was resited in 1876 to become a joint station with the Llanvi and Ogmore Railway. The station, along with Pyle Junction and its extensive sidings, proved to be a vital part of the line for freight traffic, transporting limestone for the iron and steel industries in the area. During the 60s, however, the old station along with its sidings and junction would close under the Beeching Report. The current station dates from 1994 and sees one train every 2 hours in each direction. Freight services struggled with their heavy trains full of steel on the climb to the summit at Transpile from Margam. Banking engines were used at the back of each freight train during the steam age. This was taken over by having 3 Class 37 diesel locomotives, but due to the locomotives' coupling issues, they were replaced by having 2 Class 47s, until the beginning of the 21st century, when they too were replaced by a single Class 66 locomotive, which alongside the Class 70s worked the steel freight services from Margam. We are approaching Water Street Junction, where freight traffic to the vast Margam Knuckle Yard as well as the Port Talbot Steelworks diverge. We also pass beneath the freight-only line from Tondu on the Maesteg branch. The yard at Margam dates from 1901 and runs freight services to Shotton in North Wales, Trostre by Llanelli in West Wales, and to Round Oak, just south of Birmingham. We pass the vast Port Talbot Steelworks itself. It opened in 1837 along with Port Talbot Docks. Margam Works was completed in 1926. The steelworks produces around 5 million tons of steel slabs per year, making it one of the largest steelworks in Europe. Although it was affected during the reshaping of British railways between the 1950s and 70s, its rail network is still mostly in use, with only the lines and sidings to Pontre Hill, Porthcawl, and the docks around Port Talbot being taken out of use, and have been built over since. We get the advanced warning for a 70 miles per hour speed restriction as we pass beneath the A4241 trunk route at Harbour Way. Just before the road bridge was the site of Margam Holt. It opened in 1948 and closed in 1964. On the horizon is the Avon Forest Park. The 48-mile square park is set in the Avon Valley and is a popular mountain bike area as well as for hiking. The valley also once had around 25 miles of closed railways, which are now used for cycling. A branch line from the steelworks once crossed the main line here to connect Port Talbot with Ponter Hill. This section opened in 1897 and closed between 1964 and 1967. On the approach to the station at Port Talbot Parkway, we cross Oakwood Road level crossing. Opened with the line in 1850, and the once four-platform station was completely surrounded by sidings, engine sheds, and junctions that covered the Port Talbot docks, which is now the town's retail and industrial area. Freight services from the docks would use the northern section of the Port Talbot and Ponter Hill Railway until the 1960s, when the station and the site was completely redeveloped. There were originally 3 stations in the town. The first was on the Rhondda and Swansea Bay Railway called Aberavon Town, and the second being Port Talbot Central. Both would close in the 1960s. Today, Great Western Railway and Transport for Wales stop at the now island platform. As of 2016, the station received a new ticket office and footbridge to improve accessibility. A Class 43 HST arrives with the service to London from Swansea. They were replaced on mainline duties by the Hitachi Class 800 and 802 Intercity Express trains between 2017 and 2019, after serving the Great Western Main Line since 1976. Leaving the station was where 2 connecting branches diverged from both the left and right to connect with the Rhondda and Swansea Bay Railway. We passed beneath the A48 twice and crossed the River Avon. On our left, before we passed beneath the M4 for the fifth time, was where the branch to the Aberavon sand sidings converged. The M4 now runs alongside us as far as Britton Ferry, where it diverges left and crosses the River Neath. We passed the station at Baglan. The station only opened in 1996 and is served by one train every 2 hours in both directions. As the M4 diverges to the left, we pass the once vast goods yards of Baglan Bay and Britton Ferry. The line from Baglan Bay converges from the left. Like most of the stations on this main line, Britton Ferry was an original, opening with the line in 1850. It was renamed to Britton Ferry West in 1924. It was reverted back to Britton Ferry when the station was resited over 450 metres to the north until its closure in 1964. The current station dates from 1994 and is located on the site of the original station within the complex of Courtside Junction, where freight trains diverge onto the Swansea District Line. The Swansea District Line was opened in 1912 by the Great Western Railway to provide a more faster direct route to Fishguard Harbour whilst avoiding the city of Swansea. It was used by both passenger and freight until the stations on this line were closed during the reshaping of British Railways. On today's network, it is worked mostly by freight services, with just 2 or 3 passenger services also using the line. On the approach to the station at Neath was where the town's goods yard was located. Back in the steam age, it was very common for most stations to have either a small or vast freight yard serving both the station and the local area. There was also a through line that ran between the two tracks, but has been taken out of use since the 1970s. Opened in 1850 with the line and was once one of 4 stations serving the town. The other stations were Neath Canal Side on the Rhondda and Swansea Bay Railway, Neath Bridge Street and Neath Abbey, which were on the Neath and Brecon Railway. Neath was renamed to Neath General to distinguish itself from the other 3 stations. After the closure of these stations and the 2 lines they served, it was renamed back to Neath, with part of the Neath and Brecon Railway being still in use for freight services to the dock at Onllyn. Today there is an hourly service operating at this station, which is provided by both Great Western Railway and Transport for Wales. There was once a junction at this end of the station, where a branch line diverged to the right to connect with the Vale of Neath Railway. We now cross the Neath Viaduct at the maximum permitted speed of 35 miles per hour. The viaduct takes the line over the Neath Canal, the River Neath, the Tennant Canal, the A465 trunk route, and a surviving section of the former Vale of Neath Railway, which is still used as a freight-only line, to the colliery at Aberpergwm. After clearing the viaduct, we begin to climb at an average gradient of 1 in 90 to the summit at Skewen. We cross the now closed Bryn Dewi freight branch to Brynnock. We now pass the station at Skewen. It originally opened in 1882 as Dinvor before being renamed to Skewen in 1904. In 1910 the station was resited further east and would close in 1964. The current station dates from the Swan Line initiative in 1994. At the summit was the junction that connected trains with the Swansea District line, as well as some former sidings to our right. We pass beneath the M4 motorway for the final time. Here the speed limit drops to 65 miles per hour for this curve, just before we start to descend to Landor Viaduct at an average gradient of 1 in 90. As we approach the station at Llansamlet, we cross the Swansea District Railway. The original station opened in 1885 and was sited over 700 metres down the line. It was renamed to Llansamlet North in 1950, only to close with Skewen in 1964. The current station opened with Skewen in 1994, and both share the same timetable, with one train every 2 hours in both directions. We pass the site of the original Llansamlet station. We cross the viaduct at Bryn. Not far from the line is the Swansea Bus Museum. We get the advanced warning for the 40 miles per hour speed restriction on the approach to Landor Viaduct. Landor Viaduct opened in 1850 with the line. Between 1886 and 1889, the viaduct was rebuilt to a 22-span configuration, replacing the original. It was built not only to cross the River Tor and the district of Landor, but also to allow a triangular junction to be incorporated for trains avoiding Swansea, to access the West Wales line. At the junction was the site of both the high and low level island platforms at Landor. It was an original station, which opened in 1850. The low level station was on the far right, where another Swansea avoiding line was located. It closed in 1954, and the high level station was renamed to Landor, until it too was closed in 1964. We passed the Landor Rolling Stock Repair Centre, opened as a train maintenance depot in 1963 and used to manage the Great Western Railway's Intercity 125 fleet until 2018, when the depot closed and the new Malaphant depot opened to house the fleet of the new Class 800 Hitachis. It was reopened by Chrysalis Rail in 2019, with its first project being on repairing the Class 156 Super Sprinters all the way from Abellio Scott Rail. Like most of the cities by the sea or estuary, Swansea had a vast railway network which covered the docks and harbour until the 1960s. The West Wales line joins us from the right at Swansea Loop West Junction. We also pass the pre-mentioned Maliphant Depot to our left, and another Class 175 Type 1 Coradia on a service from Carmarthen to Manchester. Transport for Wales are planning to replace the entire fleet of Class 175s, along with its entire fleet of 150 Type 2s, 153s, and 158 Sprinters with the new Class 197 Civities. The planned 77 units of 51 2-car and 26 3-car sets are scheduled to enter service between 2021 and 2023. And so we arrive into Swansea Station, 216 miles from London Paddington, and is the fourth busiest station in Wales. It was one of 4 stations that served the city, the others being Swansea Bay and Swansea Victoria. The 4th station was called The Mount, and was part of the Swansea and Mumbles Railway, which was the world's first recorded horse-drawn railway, with the Mount being the world's first railway station, opening in 1807, only to last until 1855, when the horse-drawn railway was converted to heavy rail. Swansea High Street opened as the original terminus from London Paddington in 1850 by the South Wales Railway. The station was extended in the 1880s, and was extended again between 1925 and 1927. As of 1968, it was renamed Swansea, and was the only station left standing, as the other stations and the lines they served were closed during the reshaping of British Railways. Today, the services are operated by Great Western Railway and Transport for Wales. A Class 158 heads for Shrewsbury via Llanelli and the Heart of Wales line. Our journey ends at Swansea. However, our Class 175 Type 1 Coradia's journey is far from over, as it continues on its journey to Milford Haven, taking another 2 hours.